Hi guys, and welcome to the training for the SENUK XCR script recorder. We're going to start off with a few basic points. First, let's figure out how to actually get to the script recorder. When you launch SENUK XCR, you're going to see a screen like this, and most of you already know what to do from here. But for the newbies, I'm just going to show you. First, you have to create a campaign, and let's give this campaign a name. Let's call it Script Recorder Campaign. And then in that campaign we create individual projects. So I'm going to create an account creation project. Now the type of script that you want to create is to get to that script you have to get through the project first. So if you want to create an account creation script, you're going to have to create an account creation project first, or use an existing account creation project that you already have. If you want to create a social network script, you're going to have to create a social network project or use a previous social network project. So let's say we want to create an account creation script. I'm going to double click on this new account creation project, and over here we see these categories called custom. So over here we have to figure out what kind of account creation script we want to create. Is it an article directory account creation script, a social network account creation script, or any of these other modules? So let me just pretend like it's an article directory account creation script. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to click on add script, and it's going to pop up this box. Now over here the only thing I need to really worry about is the site URL. So I'm just going to put in google.com. I know it's not an article directory site, but we're going to use it just as an example. If you want the script name to be different from the site URL, then you can enter that here. But by default, whatever the site URL is, that's going to be the name of the script. So we're just going to leave it as it is for now. Press save. Now this screen pops up, and this is where we're going to be doing pretty much all of our work. So the first basic concept that we need to understand is the concept of steps. A step is basically a command for what you want SENUK to do. So any SENUK script that you create is going to be composed of many steps. So a step can be something like navigate to a certain web page, or click an item, or fill in a value, or anything like that. All of these individual actions that a script is composed of are called steps. So let me add a step right now. I'm going to say add element click, even though it doesn't make any sense to click this text box, but I just want to show you as an example of what a step is. So now our script has two steps. Now when we run the script using this run button here, the order of execution is going to be from top to bottom. The number that's next to the step doesn't really matter. That's simply an identifier for this step. So if I wanted step number 2 to happen before step number 1, all I would do is select step number 2 and drag it above step number 1. So now it's going to click first, and then it's going to try and navigate. After creating these steps, we can also test individual steps one by one. So if I was to press the run button, it would do the steps in order. First it would navigate, and then it would click the item. But what if I only wanted to test this navigate step? All I would do is right click and click on run step. Now all it would do is test that one particular step. What we can also do is we can select a group of steps to test together. So let's say I add another, let me set the element value to blah. Now I only want to test these first two steps. I don't want to test the third step. So all I would do is I would draw a rectangle and select those two steps together, and I would just press the play button. So now the play button would only run the first two steps, and right after doing that it would stop. It's not going to run the click item step. The next concept that you need to understand is the concept of variables. So by variable I mean something like this word $site URL $. A variable is a piece of text that gets replaced by another piece of text when you actually run the script. So when we're telling SENUK to navigate, which means the web browser should take you to this location, we're telling it to navigate to the site URL variable. The site URL variable is going to be replaced by the URL that we have over here. So if we right click and run step, we can see that it's taking us to google.com, which forwards to google.ca. If we were to change this to, let's say, yahoo.com, and then we were to say run step, then it's going to take us to yahoo.com instead. So it's not actually going to take this variable literally. It's going to replace it with whatever we want it to be replaced with. Now, in the script recorder, anything that has these dollar symbols around it is considered a variable. So whenever you see something between two dollar symbols, that means it's going to get replaced by something else when the script actually runs. Now you might be wondering why we're navigating to the site URL variable as opposed to yahoo.com. We could specify yahoo.com directly here, but the reason we're putting it in a variable is because the site list can actually hold a whole bunch of different websites that will all follow the same script. So for example, if you're trying to automate a platform, let's say PHPBB or vBulletin or any of the other popular platforms, every single website that uses that platform can be automated using the exact same commands. So all we would have to do is we would have to copy and paste a list of all the different websites that all use the same platform, and then write one script, and SEnuke is automatically gonna automate every single one of those websites using those same commands. The concept of variables is something that you should be very comfortable with if you want to really use the script recorder properly, because throughout the script recorder we're going to need to use various variables. So let's say I wanted to fill this text box with let's say the title, or actually in this case we'll fill it with the email address. So all I would do is pick the email variable and press save, and then when I run this step, it's gonna fill it with the email. Now right now it shows the actual variable because we don't have an email address specified here. But if we were to specify an email address, let's say any junk email, and now we were to run the step again, now it gets replaced with the actual email address. So a lot of the actual values it picks up from the exact project that it's connected to. So similarly, we can use any of these other variables, a user ID, the password, the CAPTCHA solution. Every single one of these variables will go through in depth, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand the concept of variables first. So now let's actually go through the various steps in the various commands in the script editor. So you can right click this window, and when you go to the add menu, you can see all the various actions that you can tell SEnuke to do. So the navigate action we've already covered. Very simple, takes URL, and optionally underneath at the bottom of all these different commands, what you can do is you can insert a comment. So this is something descriptive just for yourself. The script is going to completely ignore it. It's only for your understanding. So let's say let's go to the main page, and then we press save, and over here we can see in the comment section that the actual comment shows up. So when you're reading the script, you don't have to look at the various action names because it can look like gibberish. You can actually look at your actual comments for everything to make sense. Probably the most important step that you need to understand is the set element value step. What you can do is you can right click and go to set item value from here, but what I prefer to do is I prefer to use the select element arrow and select whatever element on the web page I would like to set the value of, and then click on set element value. Now let me go through the various options over here. The frame HTML, this is not something that you need to really worry about. This basically tells SEnuke that the element that it's looking for is inside an iframe. If you don't know what an iframe is, don't worry about it, just ignore this. In actuality, you can pretty much ignore everything here except this value field over here. So if you don't know what the tag name is, what the outer HTML is, just ignore all that. What basically this is it tells SENuke how to find that particular piece, how to find that particular element on the website. So this tells us that it's an input box, and the ID of that box is this over here, and the name is P. Now, what we can do is in the outer HTML, if we discover that there's a whole bunch of random numbers that SENuke is identifying that element by, and it seems to you that those numbers might actually change for another user. So let's say over here it said your username. Now, if we know that we create this script and it's identifying the element using my actual username, if somebody has a different username, that script is actually going to break. So what we can do is we can insert an asterisk like that. This asterisk basically tells SENuke that you can have any value in here that you want, as long as the rest of the stuff matches. Whatever's in the asterisk can take on any value. So it can take on any username. So it doesn't just have to take your particular username. Now this property, every HTML element on the page has a particular property that you can set. For most elements, it's going to be value. If you don't know which property you should set, just let SENuke pick. Whenever you use the select element arrow, SENuke is automatically going to fill in which property you most likely want to be setting. If you actually know HTML, then you know that you can set a whole bunch of different properties for every single element. Now this value, like I showed you earlier, you can pick from a different variable. This value is what the actual text box is going to be filled with. Or you can type in a new word, whatever you would like, any piece of text into this box. And you can also even have spinner code, just like you can outside of the script editor. So let's say a new word, a new sentence, and yeah, so whenever SENuke actually sets the value, it's going to pick a different spun variation of this value. The limit characters from left, this is if you are actually trying to fill in a text box that has that accepts, let's say, a maximum of 100 characters. What you can do is you can say limit the characters from left to 100 characters, and then SENuke is going to make sure only the first 100 characters go into that box. Otherwise, it could break the restriction that many websites have for the maximum number of characters. You can also limit the characters from the right of the string. So if you limit it to, let's say, the left of the string, the first 5 characters is going to pick these 5 characters. And then if you say limit from the right, then it's going to pick these 5 characters. Pretty self-explanatory. This replace option is something that you probably will be using regularly. This basically tells SENuke replace a particular piece of text with another piece of text. So let's say if we want to replace the word new with blah. So let me actually show you how this is going to look. Let me right click and run this step. So where it saw the word new, it replaced it with blah. Pretty straightforward. You can type in -n if you want to replace the new line. So let's say you wanted to replace every single new line with let's say this tag. You could do that over here too. Or you could replace the mention of a particular piece of text, let's say new, with a new line. Move links to top. This is for those places which have a restriction for how many characters can go into a certain box, but you want to make sure that the links that you have in your article will actually show up before the rest of your article does. Because if you were to tell SENuke to limit the characters from the left to, let's say, 100 or 150 characters, if your links actually start after 150 characters, then your links are never going to show up. So you can tell SENuke, move the links to the top, and then do everything else. strip HTML code is very self-explanatory. A lot of different websites, they don't actually allow you to put any HTML code in your article. This is, for example, true for article directories or many press release sites. So what you can do is you can tell SENuke strip the HTML code, so remove all HTML code from the article, but keep the links. So what it's going to do is it's going to keep the HTTP link without the actual anchor tag around it. So the link is not going to be clickable, but the link is going to be there. And what a lot of these article directory sites do is that they actually convert any link that they see in the article, they automatically make it clickable. So for you to make it clickable, you would have to put in HTML code in there. But a lot of the websites actually make the links clickable themselves if you strip the HTML code. So let me show you an example of HTML code being stripped. Let's say we have over here our typical code for creating a new link. So here is how we create a link in HTML, and all of you should be familiar with this. Now we're going to tell SENuke strip that HTML code. When we press save, when we run the step, all we're going to see is senuke.com, which is this piece of text over here. If we don't strip the code, then we're going to see the full HTML code over here. The next thing that we're going to cover is how to add category support to any website. Now there are certain modules in SENuke, like the article directory project, the social bookmarking project. There are certain modules that support being able to assign different categories to different websites. And adding categories in any website is a very simple three-step process. First, what you have to do is you have to go to the website that you're trying to automate, and then go to the category drop-down list. Next, you select that drop-down list using the element selector, and then click on copy items in list. This is going to copy all the items from that drop-down list to the clipboard. Now all we have to do is assign those items to the required website. So we go back to the article directory project, we select the website, and then we click on edit categories. And all we have to do now is paste the list of categories that we copied earlier. Now I'm going to scroll all the way up, and I'm going to delete this extra please select category, and then press OK. So now that category list has been assigned to that website. So let's pick the category advertising for this example. Now what we have to do is the last and final step is to add code that will select the chosen category. So all you need to do is, when you're automating that website, click the category drop down box, click on set element value, and by default it's going to choose this combo select random variable. We're going to change this to the category variable, and that's all there is to it. Press save, and now when we press run, it's going to pick the required advertising category. It's as simple as that. The next two steps we're going to be looking at is the click item and the wait for steps. So the click item is a very self-explanatory step. You simply select an element on the page that you would like to click, and then you simply say add element click. The same thing over here, the tag name in the outer HTML is how SENuke is going to identify that element, and just like the set item value step, you can use wildcards in here as well. Now this checkbox over here is the last element. Sometimes what's going to happen is SENuke is going to be able to find multiple elements on that web page that match this exact same tag name in the outer HTML. So when that happens, by default SENuke is going to pick the first element that is matched. But if you would like to tell SENuke match the last element, if you would like to tell SENuke to pick the last element that matches that exact outer HTML and tag name, then all you have to do is just check this checkbox over here. So we're just going to leave this unselected, and chances are you're almost never going to be using this, so don't worry about it. So I'm just going to press save, and I'm going to run this step, and it should click the images link over there. So we can see that it actually clicked that link successfully. And one thing you might have noticed is right after it clicked the link, what it did was it waited 3 seconds. So I'm just going to show you one more time. Let's click the link. Now over here you can see waiting for 3, 2, 1. So after it clicks any link or it navigates to a different page, it's going to wait 3 seconds just to make sure that the next page has had time to load. So the next step that we're going to be looking at is the wait for step, and this step is actually very important. What this step does is it tells SENuke after clicking a certain element or going to a certain page, wait for a particular piece of text to make sure that page is loaded properly. So let's say we were to navigate to yahoo.com, then what we would do is we would wait for this piece of text, video. So once SENuke finds the word video on the actual page, it knows that the page has loaded properly, and it can continue on to the next step. If it doesn't find the word video, it waits 20 seconds, and if it doesn't find it within those 20 seconds, then it automatically retries the script from the very first step all over again. Because chances are that if it did not find that piece of text, something went wrong, so let's try this whole thing again. What you can also do is you can leave the actual condition over here blank, and you can tell SENuke to force wait. So if you would like to tell SENuke, I would like you to wait for 3, 4, 5, however many seconds, you just specify the number of seconds over here, and now SENuke is gonna be forced to wait 5 seconds before moving on to the next step. So this is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to actually run this step to show you how it works. If it matches that piece of text, it's going to move on to the next step. If it doesn't match that piece of text, it's simply going to retry from the beginning after waiting for 20 seconds or however long you told it to wait. The next step that we're going to look at is the jump to step, and this is also a very important step to control the exact order of execution of your script. So I'm just going to delete everything in the script, and I'm going to create let's say a new navigate step that's going to navigate to the site URL. And then let me run the step actually first. Now this step loads. Now I'm going to add another step which sets the value of this element to blah, and then I'm going to add another step which clicks the images link. Now what if we wanted to jump from step 1 to step 3, skipping step number 2? So all we would do is we would add a jump to step, and over here we can specify a condition, so it's only going to jump to a new step if it matches a certain piece of text on the web page. You can also leave this blank, so SENuke is going to be forced to jump to that step every single time. So let's say we specify the step number 3 here. So what we're basically telling it is jump to step number 3 whenever you come to this jump to step. We can also specify tell SENuke to auto retry with a different profile or to skip that exact website. But let me just demonstrate how the jumping works. So I'm just going to save this, and over here I'm going to move the jump to step to happen right after the navigate step. So now what it's going to do is it's going to navigate, then when it comes here it's going to see that SENuke wants to jump to step number 3, and it's not going to fill in the text box over here with the value blah that we told it to fill. So let me run this to show you how it works. Now it's navigating, it's going to wait 3 seconds, then it goes to the jump to, and then it simply clicks the images link instead of actually filling in the word blah. Now if we were to remove the step and we would press play, then it would first fill in the word blah and then it would click the link. Now you might be wondering when this is actually going to be useful in real life, and the most common use for this is when you're trying to log into a certain website, but it turns out that you're already logged into that website. The web browser has saved the cookies and you don't need to re-log in. So what you can tell SENuke to do is if it finds the word log out on that web page, then it just skips all the steps that are required to log into that page. And instead of trying to log in, it's just going to jump straight to the rest of the steps which are probably going to be to submit your article or whatever you'd like to do. Now, as you can see here, the jump to step has a few different options. Obviously, the condition and the jump to step ID we've already covered. The auto retry with different profile. So let's say you come across the words "your account was banned," which can happen from time to time. You can simply tell SENuke auto retry with a different profile, and this auto retry option is only going to work if you've assigned multiple profiles to that project. So if you've chosen more than one profile, then it can auto retry with a different profile. And you can also tell SENuke to delete the account, because if these words were found, chances are that account is no good, so delete that account. Or you can tell SENuke to skip that website altogether if it's an issue that's not related to the particular account. For example, your IP was banned. Retrying with a different account is not going to fix that issue, so you tell SENuke just skip that whole website altogether. You can also use the add log command. The add log basically adds an entry into the SENuke Solution Center, which tells you what kind of issues SENuke faced while trying to submit to a certain website. If you haven't seen the SENuke Solution Center, don't worry about it. The web browser status, the WB status, is actually the piece of text that you see over here at the bottom. Right now it says ready, but you can say whenever this piece of text is found, it's going to skip the website, and then it's going to say the site was skipped because account was banned. Let me actually run this step, and I'm going to show you an example of this. The word that we're going to be looking for is images. So it's going to find that word, and it's going to skip the website, delete the account, and set the web browser status. There we go. So the site was skipped, and if this was running in the submitter, nothing would happen after this. And over here at the bottom, we see the site was skipped because account was banned. The next command we're going to look at is the set variable command. And this is pretty straightforward. All it does is it sets the value of a particular variable to something else. So let's say you wanted to add, you wanted to set the user ID to new user ID. You just specify that here. The replace command is the same as the previous replace command we've looked at. Now in real life, when this is going to be most useful is, for example, a lot of the websites, they ask you to log in using the email address and the password, not the username. But when SENuke actually saves that account to the account profile, it saves the user ID and the password. So what you can do is you can tell SENuke, make the user ID the email address. So replace the user ID variable with the email variable. So when SENuke is actually going to save that account to the profile, it's going to save the email address and the password. So let me demonstrate how this works. I'm going to generate a random profile here. So you can see that the username is Craig Tangy1125 and the email address is this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tell SENuke set the variable user ID to the email address, and then assign the user ID to this box over here. So if we run this, we can see that the user ID became the email address. Now also in the set variable option, and this actually goes for all the different boxes that you're going to see, all the different text boxes in the script editor, you can combine a bunch of variables. So you can, if you would like to set the user ID, let's say you want to add the number 1 after the password, and the letter A before the password. So let's change the password to A, whatever the password was, and then 1. Now let's press save, and over here let's change this to password, so it's going to fill this box with the password. Now let's run these 2 steps, and we can see that over here the password was FRFV, and it ended with the numbers 4, 6, but now there's an A at the beginning and a 1 at the end. So this goes for all the text boxes in the script editor, you can combine multiple variables and spin syntax and anything you'd like. But like I said, the most common use for this is going to be setting the user ID to the email address, so that when SENuke saves that account for that website, it saves the email instead of the user ID. One thing I forgot to mention is that you can create your own variable over here. So let's say you wanted to create a new variable, my new variable, and you want to assign it the value of email. Now, when you press save, when you go into set item value, you'll be able to actually type in that variable, my new variable. You might not see it in this list over here, but this is actually not all the variables that you can have. Those are only the most common ones. So if you create a new variable, you can use that variable in the rest of the script editor. The next step that we're going to cover is the browse file step. The browse file step is used when you would like to upload files to a website. This step will do two things. First, it will click the browse button on the website to open the file choosing dialog box, and then it will type in the file name into that dialog box. So let me show you an example. I'm just going to select this box right here and click on add browse file click, and now I'm going to run this step. So first it clicks that box, and now it puts in the file name in there. Now the file name that it enters into the file dialog box comes from the file name variable. Any module that supports file uploading, like the PDF submitter module, will automatically fill in this file name variable with the required file name. But for those modules, like the account creation module that we're in right now, those modules that don't support file uploading, you can specify the file name manually yourself just by setting the file name variable to the full path of the file that you would like to upload. Note that the file name must be the full path to the file and not just the file name. So let me add a set variable command, and the name I'm going to type in file name, and the value I'm going to type in the path to a PDF document on my computer. I'm going to press save. Now I'm going to run these two steps, and now you can see that it put in the file name into the box properly. Now the next step would be to click this button, and that's how we go about uploading files using the script recorder. The next step we're going to be looking at is the find item step. Now this is actually a bit of an advanced step, but I'm going to try and explain it the best I can. What this step lets you do is it lets you select a particular element and then assign a particular property of that element to a particular variable. So let me show you an example. We select that particular link, and then we assign the property href to the variable my new variable, and then we press save, and then I'm just going to delete this, and now what we're going to do is we're going to set the element value to my new variable. Now if we run these two, what it does is it takes the href property from the actual link and it puts it in the my new variable box, and that my new variable gets filled into this box. So you can do this for any property of any element, but you have to kind of understand HTML code and know which property holds what to be able to take advantage of this step. Now the rest of the steps are really simple, so I'm just going to run through them really quickly. This add log step, I briefly discussed this when we were in the jump to step. This basically adds an entry into the solution center, a message and a solution. So let's say you come across your account was banned. In the solution center you can add a particular message. This website banned the account, and what's the solution to this problem? Create a new account. Now when you actually run this script, a solution center window is going to pop up after the submission completes, and it's going to show you this message and the solution. This is something that you might want to do for your to help you understand what's going on, but you don't really have to. The add URL step simply adds a URL to the URL list, and that the location URL is the actual URL in the web browser that you see at the top. You can also specify something like, for example, site URL / user ID. If that's the URL that you would like to enter into the URL list, you know that's how the website actually creates its URLs. You can specify it like this. And you can also take this checkbox to specify that this is an RSS URL and it's going to be added to the RSS URL list instead of the page URL list. After that, we have the go back and go forward. Very self-explanatory. Just tells the web browser to go back and go forward or refresh. And web browser status, we've already covered that. That sets the value of whatever field is over here. And the mark finish step. This step, whenever you want to tell SEnuke that the script is complete, you can add this mark finish step. Now, you might be wondering, why do we need to add the mark finish step? Why can't we just let SEnuke run out of steps to do and it's automatically going to know that there's no further steps? And the answer is that we could have steps below this mark finish step as well. Let's say we move these 2 steps below the mark finish step. Now what's going to happen is if we press play, SEnuke is going to run all the way and it's going to stop at the mark finish step. But if this jump to condition matches, we can tell it to jump to step number 7. So if it finds this word images, it's going to jump to step number 7 and then step number 8, and then we can add another jump to step, which is going to take it back to step number let's say 5. Right, so what's going to happen is it's going to run from top to bottom. If this condition matches, it's going to jump to this step. It's going to skip this whole mark finish step. If this condition does not match, then it's just going to keep continuing and it's going to stop right there. It's not going to continue any steps below that. The next step that we're going to look at is the solve CAPTCHA step. The script recorder makes solving CAPTCHAs on a web page a piece of cake. All you have to do is select the image that is showing the CAPTCHA with the element selector and choose solve CAPTCHA. It pops up the solve CAPTCHA box. Most of the time you can just press save here, but over here we notice that there's a whole bunch of random numbers which seem to be the file name of the CAPTCHA image. So we're going to replace this with the wildcard. Otherwise, the next time this page loads, those numbers will be different and it's not going to be able to find this exact element. So we want to make sure that the outer HTML does not have anything like that, and replace any random numbers, random letters, any kind of identifier with a wildcard character. Now we press save. Now when you run the script, it will solve the CAPTCHA image using the chosen CAPTCHA solving service in SEnuke and save the response into the variable called CAPTCHA solution. Then all you have to do is select the text box where you're supposed to enter your CAPTCHA response and fill it with the CAPTCHA solution variable. In this case, SEnuke predicted that that's what you wanted to do, and then press save. So let me run these 2 steps. Right now, because I have automatic CAPTCHA solving disabled, it's going to show this manual CAPTCHA solving window, but you can see over here that it's extracting the CAPTCHA image properly, and then it's going to fill the image, fill the response into the appropriate text box. It's as simple as that. Now to demonstrate this last check if step, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to close this project and I'm going to create a social bookmarking project. And over here I'm gonna tell it to bookmark 2 websites, senuke.com and google.com. Now I'm gonna create a new bookmarking script. Let's say Yahoo, and we're gonna call this Yahoo bookmarking. Even though there's no such thing, I'm just gonna use this as an example. So now let's assume that this is where you actually enter the bookmark URL. we're going to set the element value to next bookmarking URL. Well, what the next bookmarking URL variable is going to hold is each time you call that variable, it's going to hold a different one of these URLs. So first, the next bookmarking URL is going to hold the senuke.com. The second time you call it, it's going to hold google.com. So what we want to say is we want to say set item value, and then click this button, the search button, and then we're going to add a jump to step to take us back to step number 1 and bookmark the next URL. So it's going to bookmark the first URL, then it's going to come to this jump to step, go back and bookmark the second URL. But now we've run out of URLs, so we can't just keep going around in circles. That would be an infinite loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a check if condition, and we're going to say if all the URLs are bookmarked, just jump to let's say step number 6. Now I'm going to move this above here, and I'm going to add a mark finish step. So now what it's going to do is going to, before jumping back to step number 1, is going to check to make sure that all URLs are not bookmarked. If they are bookmarked, it's just going to mark it as finished. Otherwise, it's going to go back and bookmark the next URL. I hope that was simple enough to understand. So I'm just going to play this to demo how it works. Now remember that we told it to bookmark 2 URLs. First it's going to bookmark google.com, and then it's going to come back for senuke.com. So now it's coming back for senuke.com. Now it's going to the check step number 5, and then it's going to jump to step number 6. Now this all happened so fast that we weren't really able to understand what was going on, but basically what it did was it went from step number 1 all the way down to step number 4 the first time around because this check step failed. Then the second time it came back, it realized that the check step, all the URLs have been bookmarked, and the check step succeeds, and then it jumps to step number 6. So this is basically like the jump to step, except instead of checking for a piece of text on the web page, it's going to check to make sure a condition in senuke matches or not. So this is the last and final check if step, and now we know all the various commands that we need to know to create some awesome scripts.